Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming today to talk about graph product management. I'm so excited to be here. Just do a quick survey. How many of you in the room have engineer in your job title? Engineers? Good number, yeah. What about product managers or my PM buddies? Where you at? Okay, yeah, woo! So for the majority of you, why are you here? Basically, if you want to know how to convince people that your work matters, this is the talk for you. Do you feel sometimes like your work is poorly understood, undervalued? Is your team feeling stuck? You had projects canceled or worse, not canceled, you build the wrong thing, or you build something and no one comes? Your team is stuck in analysis paralysis, or you can't make space in your roadmap to get out of the pile of maintenance or just resource constrained. I think these are very common problems across companies with graph programs, and they're all symptoms and costs of not doing the product work, things that product management can help with. But you might say, I'm not a product manager, my team doesn't have a product manager, maybe I should just get out of here, leave the head home early. This is important, just wait. Your graph is a product. You work on a product team building products for other product teams. You may or may not have a product manager, but there is product work to be done. Not doing that work has costs. But actually doing the work has many benefits. I'm going to focus on my top 3 today. We'll go through some anecdotes and give you some solicited advice on how product management is going to help you enable radical transformation by getting buy-in to do big things. How it's going to help you maximize value delivery and stakeholder trust through delivering incremental value, and help you scale your success so that your graph really propels top-line business goals. You can think of the topics we're covering in terms of an ROI, return on investment cycle. That first is getting the buy-in to get the company to invest in your team and in your platform. And then the second is the work to lower the break-even point and recoup that investment. And the third is the profit your platform returns as it scales those shared efforts. But before we dive in, I'll give you some background on the Times, myself, my role as a PM for our graph program. At the Times, our mission is to seek the truth and help people understand the world. And we're doing that by trying to become the essential subscription for every curious English-speaking person in the world seeking to understand and engage the world. A huge part of that mission is our journalism, but we're not just the news. We've evolved into a suite of products bundled with the news, from cooking, games, recently The Athletic. We intend to become even more valuable to people by helping them make the most of their lives and engage with their passions. Along the way, we really have been aiming to create this expansive and interconnected product experience across this bundle of applications. This is when I say the bundle throughout this presentation, this is what I mean. The suite of products that we offer as the New York Times. That goal of creating an interconnected experience culminated in a huge milestone last week with the launch of our new Times app, which is really the portal now to the full product portfolio with just a swipe. But how do you build and scale something that is both expansive and interconnected? Our shared platforms at the New York Times have been critical to these efforts, and at the heart of that is the Supergraph. Our graph powers features across the bundle through 118 clients that we support, making 50 billion requests per month, all across a Supergraph that is composed by 12 subgraphs and counting, in a graph that's over 1,000 types and 7,000 fields. But that's not where we started. When I joined the Times, our graph wasn't a platform. about a shared monograph, just like really a shared code base, focused primarily on serving just our news content to the news product. The graph had been around for many years, centrally built and managed by one team, but the architecture, programming language, operating model, all these bottlenecks that we're familiar with this monograph approach, were really becoming serious bottlenecks, to the point that they were diluting the benefits of GraphQL enough and becoming existential threats as people began to build around us to avoid those bottlenecks. The team knew that federation was the answer to really becoming a platform, but the idea wasn't getting traction. And this is the challenge I came into as the first product manager the team had. We were really here at the end of the product lifecycle, and in order to serve the very pressing current and extremely ambitious future needs of the business, we needed to restart this product lifecycle, reinvent our team and our architecture into a shared platform, from a cost center into a value generation center for the business. But how do you communicate that need to stakeholders and leaders so they're on board with what could be a multi-year investment? How do you get the resource allocation to do things that aren't going to immediately give a return on investment? You need to get buy-in to do some big things. You need to craft a product vision, make it compelling to people who just even have surface level understanding of the technology, the market it successfully, drive that alignment up and down and across. But to be honest, this was way harder than I thought it would be. We started by selling federation and all of the benefits of reducing the time to evolve the graph, increased velocity and efficiency, but it really wasn't resonating like we expected. And I realized I was really focusing on only telling one half of the story, the contributor side of the equation, talking about the pain points and the friction that went out into building the graph. But your graph has another customer base that is in the end more important, the consumer side, the part that actually generates value for your graph. Because if you build the most beautiful graph in the world, but no clients query it, does it really matter? And I'm going to say something a little provocative here, maybe a little like a clickbaity headline, but stay with me. I promise it will become clear. GraphQL federation doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to the business, but let me put it this way using a food-based metaphor. It's the end of the conference. We'll have a little fun. You know that quote about how the sausage is made? No one really wants to know how the sausage is made. Instead of graph as product, let's say your graph is a sausage. Federation is how the sausage is made. It's focused on all of the problems of sausage production. Your consumers don't care. They're just hungry. They want to eat the sausage. It's not to say that federation isn't valuable if the business needs a chicken apple sausage and you can't get that apple subgraph into your graph. It's a problem. But it's only important in the context of graph consumption being negatively impacted. A sausage company can, maybe save money or make money by streamlining the sausage factory production process, right? By making subgraph onboarding easy and efficient. But you're not going to advertise to your customers baking on your award-winning sausage factory. You advertise and make money when people buy your sausages. You still need to do the work to make federation easier, serve the needs of that customer base. You can't have revenue impacting bottlenecks or quality issues that give people food poisoning. But never forget the context of consumption that work happens in, and don't over-index on those pain points at the expense of client needs and actual value delivery. So this is something I learned the hard way when getting buy-in for federation. I had to build that context on the value of the graph overall, sausage-first marketing, because your platform generates value when it's adopted and utilized by consumers to build things for the business. To get funding to improve the factory, I had to make people want the sausage. And once you have that strong foundation across the org and have gained momentum on evangelizing those basics, then you can get, buy-in for those large investments. That's why it was never really about federation. You have to be able to tell a compelling story. So what does that look like, selling the vision? First is if you have a recurring theme where people think they're talking about the same thing, but they're really not at all, you need a shared language that's accessible to anyone in your org, describing the platform and the value proposition in non-technical terms. A mission statement, a vision statement that you can slap at the top of every email you send to give context in how you add value to the business. Lots of metaphors and pithy slogans that explain how things work to people who, maybe are not a technical audience or only have broad concepts of how GraphQL works. We used things like one-stop shop, the data model of your business, the single source of truth, lots of images that describe technical concepts like API sprawl or, loosely coupled. You need to do the work to evangelize that value. I won't go into that too much. I think there's a lot of great talks on this topic about how to build coalitions and, those convert skeptics to evangelists, but that is super, super important work you need to do. And you need to cut through the noise and make sure that your messaging really resonates. You get a ton of inputs as a product manager from a lot of different directions, and you need to distill that information into the smallest, most impactful package with the right context for the right audience. And that takes a lot of workshopping and experimentation to find what's working. For us, things that really resonated was talking about the cost of doing nothing. What happens if we don't invest in the platform? What happens if people start just making siloed solutions for these problems that aren't going to go away? And how severe will those problems be as we try to scale the business or expand into new markets? Selling the vision doesn't really look like, query languages or what is a resolver or, technical terms like schematic representation or declarative data fetching or all the things that we get really excited about as platform owners in the GraphQL space. But once you have this buy-in for investing in the platform, now what? In that ROI model that we're thinking about, this is all about getting to the break-even point, recouping the investment your company made in your team. You need to ship some sausages. Your job as a leader is to be nimble here, pivot and find the shortest path to value to recoup the investment the business made in your team and your platform, and then maintain that investment from the business and stakeholders as you deliver. So we'll walk through some of the early milestones from our platform modernization efforts. So we started our journey focused on replacing that monograph, that bottleneck. And that was how we defined success and the goal we organized our work around. Where are we today? We haven't really started. But that's what we got the most buy-in for pursuing. Why didn't we just go for it? It was going to be a huge endeavor with a lot of headwinds and a really long time to value. So we had to iterate, define success, redefine it again and again and again. Sometime, balancing competing priorities and hard decisions along the way, like investing in the old platform while trying to build the new one. Sometimes we had to ship some hamburgers. But something interesting happened as we were pivoting, and our goal, that North Star, began to shift. Turns out federation actually mattered a lot. It mattered for our own nimbleness, not really for the executive boardroom case, but for our own strategy and adoption case, for being able to deliver value incrementally and pivot nimbly. It was really crucial. So as we pivoted and, began to, get some buy-in for federation, we were like surprised that it really started to pick up steam. And if we had stayed focused on our original goal of just replace the monograph, we would have missed the boat on significant opportunities. Because while replacing the monograph would have been crucial for the core news product and those users, the business strategy was starting to shift towards the bundle. And all these teams across the org were trying to figure out their own strategies for, figuring out how to enable those interconnected experiences. And by filling that need, we were able to have the graph serve as that centralized spot to make those capabilities broadly accessible. How do you stay nimble? First, you got to get up in everyone's business. Talk to people. Know the business, the top 2 goals at all time, your strategy for achieving them, your customers, know them. We didn't have any for Federation starting out, but we knew when the tide started to turn. Knowing the landscape of your customer strategies is crucial because if your strategy can connect to their strategy, it gives leadership a lot of confidence that everyone is working together on common goals and not on tangential paths. Next, you got to make your business everyone else's business. You'd have to have a constant cadence of communication so that you can find those opportunities to pivot and serve customers. If you're going to do an if you build it, they will come strategy, they need to know about it at the right time when it's relevant to their work, not relevant to your work. And you don't know when that's going to be. So that's why constant cadence. You need to constantly be sending out information about your strategy, what you're doing, and make sure people are aware. That was crucial for us because being able to have the identity team start to reformulate their strategy around user-based information and how to make their platform sustainable. When they heard about GraphQL Federation, they could use that as the foundation for their entire strategy. And it was a huge win for us because they just happened upon a lunch and learn. The next thing is never stall out. Never. You have to have a stacked ranked list of potential ways to generate value in a backlog at all times, and some small quick wins in your back pocket so that if something does seem to slow down, you can just deliver a quick win. And sometimes make hard decisions to stop working on something, to not keep going if something changes with the cost-benefit ratio. But we're not just delivering milestones, talking about value. Looking at all these pivots we made around federating an existing graph, launching other graphs, and really kind of getting to the point where we needed to invest in self-service. That's one way to kind of look at things. But you have to actually put that in the lens of the value you're delivering to the business. So, being able to make a case we are actually delivering growth and adoption benefits through the Supergraph. Saying federating this graph centralized our account capabilities. Launching the user subgraphs enabled that cross-product user features. That's what we were delivering to the business. Getting self-service onboarding going when we had this influx of demand all of a sudden was going to enable us to really accelerate growth efforts towards the bundle strategy from a really cross-functional perspective. And replacing the monograph, which started out as just sort of a general developer experience value prop, has now become this pivotal piece of our publishing strategy where we're going to be able to increase journalist productivity and really revolutionize our storytelling power. And you'll see, along the way, as we delivered this incremental value, you kind of hit this inflection point. The value we were delivering at the beginning was small, but with enough pivots, you hit that break-even point in the ROI model where the org trusts that they've recouped their investment, and you really start supporting big things with your platform. That's when you can propel top-line business goals. But it's critical not just to talk about the why value in some terms. You have to use the right language for the why by laddering up to business goals, communicating that value, and finding creative ways to measure that impact. And that's a skill I've had to work on building up as a platform PM, communicating that value by laddering up to the company goals, and I mean all the way up to the top. That can be extremely hard. It's unlikely that there's a clear, direct line to ladder up to. Platforms are inherently one level removed from those top-line business metrics like engagement or growth or revenue, and you might have to invent a level or three to link your work up to, and then come up with metrics and data that prove those results that you promised. It's really hard to come up with that language that will resonate with folks with these kind of technical concepts that we work on, especially if you don't have the best visibility into what's happening across the org and what other team strategies are. I just work at the sausage factory, you know? What do I know about getting these sausages to the hot dog stand? But let me walk you through an example, a little case study with our router migration product. This project could have been a real drag. We recently migrated traffic onto the gateway, so starting another migration project so soon could have been really demoralizing, both for the team and hard to build a good case of trust for with the business. But that should have been easy, right? The router has so many amazing benefits over the gateway. Sorry, Apollo, I'm gonna kind of put you on blast here. The router, it's the High Performance Federation runtime written in Rust. It's 10 times faster. It's got 10 times higher throughput, 12 times less variance. Just look at this chart. It is compelling. It's compelling, but so is everything else the business could invest to. There's so much valuable work that we could do. How do you choose what to focus on? And even within your own roadmap, how do you make space to make sure that you are focusing and delivering on the right things that are the most impactful? Having a technically superior graph implementation, that's not a top-line business goal. 10 times faster is not a success metric with no context. You might think you have a business case that's a slam dunk, but those leaders are in 8 other meetings with other people who also have good cases. Technically compelling is not enough to beat out all that other stuff. So for us, in case you missed it, maybe you have alerts silenced on your phone. It's 2024, an election year. This is one of the most technically challenging and strategically critical times for the Times. We're rapidly pushing out breaking news content to an extremely large audience. Primaries, debates, party conferences, rallies, ticket switch-ups, election day itself, these all drive massive sustained traffic to our news product. So what is the company's strategy in an election year? It's not that different from our actual regular strategy. We just have to be the best news destination in the world. So how do you take something like, implement a high-performance federation runtime written in Rust, all the way up to be the best news destination in the world? Well, you're not alone. You have a middle layer to help you figure that out. Velocity, latency, adoption, your number of subgraphs, the growth of your schema, developer satisfaction, all of your metrics are a means to an end. They only matter if they're enabling your consumer stakeholders to deliver impact. But this was a two-way street. With a large number of stakeholders, if you go bottoms up, sometimes it is very difficult to figure out what to focus on if you're just trying to figure out what are all the strategies of every single stakeholder. So I actually find, and this might seem a little bit obvious, but going top down can really help focus your platform goals. Because if you figure out what is the company's strategy and the goals to achieving that, what are the company's big bets on how to move the needle the most, which of my stakeholder consumer teams are delivering features relevant to those big bets, that narrows the scope for your platform to focus on. You can say, for these most important things, what do they need from the graph to be successful? So for us, with the election year, that looked like this. We need to be the best news destination in the world and really seize the opportunity when we have this massive sustained audience to our product to expose, convert, and retain that audience. The way we were doing that is by focusing on these mission-critical user journeys, like our live coverage, our elections results, our breaking news, workflows, and making sure that those were extremely resilient and high quality, and that we could scale some of our high-impact engagement features, these tried and true things that we know actually move the needle for engagement and retention and audience growth. We need to make sure that those can scale to a very large audience and still be at that high quality. So for the platform, we need to make sure we can enable these user journeys at high scale and reduce latency, reduce errors, increase scalability. And once you have this framework of ladder of goals, right, you can tell a really compelling story to the business. You can say, in these pivotal moments for society, when we have the biggest audience coming to the time for help understanding the world, instead of buckling under the sheer scale of load, our platform will match the quality of our journalism with a higher quality service delivering content to our readers, all while slashing costs. So for the router, how we marketed that case was we rebranded it as an upgrade with a lot of benefits, including reduction in cloud costs, which, if you have a metric that you can put dollar amounts to or whatever your currency is, easy win, do that first. But then you can say, reducing latency and making pages load faster for the election, that really ladders up to this, goal for the election that we have as a platform. Being able to have higher throughput means we can increase scalability and absorb those breaking news traffic spikes. And by reducing the errors that cause some of those stale and depersonalized content, we can make it so that we never have technical hiccups prevent our journalism from reaching users. Once you have that sort of framework of goals, you can kind of put success metrics around that with context that actually makes sense. When you say you're reducing latency for these user journeys, you're actually making elections pages load faster. That means something. So how do you deliver impact? First, enable your consumer goals and use that sort of top-down filtering when you have too many stakeholders to focus what you need to do to deliver impact as a platform. Next is making sure you measure that success and have those impactful success metrics to prove that you are delivering that impact in a data-driven way. But not just within the scope of one initiative, like migrate to the router, but for your platform overall. What does it mean for the graph to be successful? How can we measure that over time? Having someone focused on defining those success metrics is really important because you can take those metrics and insights and trends to help you find new opportunities to drive impact and giving you the data you need to restart this cycle. And, make sure you have a good case to, and you know how the market is going to change and you know what it means for your platform to be successful so that you can get buy-in to do big things and really keep this cycle going of delivering more and more impact to your business. So I want to bring it back around now to where we started. Your graph is a product. Most of you, no matter what your title, work on product teams to build products, and there is product work to do, even if you don't have a product manager. That work takes skill and care. The costs of not doing it are real, and the benefits to making sure that it's done are critical to enabling the success of your graph program, and in turn, your company strategy. So for my fellow product managers here, I hope you feel seen and heard and not alone, and maybe got some helpful tips. Platform product work can be really challenging, but the opportunities for scaling the business are so exciting. And for everyone else in the room, I hope you got some ideas on maybe how to take a product lens to your work and have some appreciation for the skills and the benefits needed to do that work well, and some ideas for how you can kind of collaborate and contribute to the product work. So yeah, just want to say thank you to everyone. This was my first summit, and it's been a fantastic experience. Thanks to all of you. Safe travels home.